I'm writing this because I need someone to know what happened. I need someone to understand that I'm not crazy, not confused, not the demented old woman my son's family tried to make me out to be. My name is Virginia Foster. People call me Ginny. I'm 69 years old, and yesterday my son told me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving dinner. Not in those exact words, of course. Tom has always been careful with words. He's a high school English teacher, after all. He knows how to phrase things so they sound reasonable, even kind. Mom, Becca's parents are hosting this year, and Diane really wants to do her own thing. You understand, right? It's important for her to feel like the matriarch sometimes. I stood in my kitchen, in the duplex my late husband Frank and I built with our own hands in 1996. And I looked at my son's face on my phone screen. FaceTime, they call it. There's irony in that name when your own child can't be bothered to deliver bad news in person. Tom, I said, keeping my voice steady, I've come to Thanksgiving dinner for 42 years. I made the cornbread dressing, your father's recipe. I know, Mom, but things change. We'll do something just us soon, okay? Maybe breakfast next week. He ended the call before I could respond. I stood there holding my phone, looking at my reflection in the blank screen. An old woman with short gray hair, wearing a cardigan Frank bought me in 2007, the year before he died. I could smell the turkey I'd already bought, thawing in my refrigerator. 18 pounds, $43 at the Ingalls. I'd planned to bring it to Tom's house, already cooked, because Becca never could get a turkey right. I didn't cry. I'd learned a long time ago that crying doesn't solve problems. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, the one Frank built from reclaimed oak in 1998, and I made a list of all the Thanksgivings I could remember. 42 years. The first one was 1983, the year Tom was born. He was 3 months old, sleeping in a bassinet next to the table, while Frank and I ate store-brand turkey and boxed stuffing, because we were living on $17,000 a year and saving every penny we could. That's what I did yesterday. I sat alone and I remembered, because remembering is sometimes the only power you have left. This morning, I woke up at 5:47 a.m. I know the exact time because I was staring at my alarm clock when I heard the truck pull into my driveway. My bedroom is on the second floor, the east side, with windows that look out over Maple Ridge Street. I got up and looked outside. A white Ford F-250 was parked behind my 12-year-old Honda Civic. I didn't recognize the truck, but I recognized the two people climbing out of it. Harold Sutton, my son's father-in-law, wearing work boots and a canvas jacket. Diane Sutton, my son's mother-in-law, wearing expensive athleisure and oversized sunglasses, even though the sun wasn't up yet. And standing between them, looking at her phone and refusing to look up at my window, was my granddaughter Willa. 16 years old, wearing her field hockey warm-up jacket. I watched Harold open the truck bed and pull out a toolbox. Not a normal toolbox, a commercial-grade locksmith's kit, the kind with a dozen different picks and a small crowbar. My heart started beating so hard I could feel it in my throat, but I didn't move away from the window. I needed to see this. I needed to witness whatever was about to happen. Diane walked up to my front door and knocked. 3 sharp raps. When I didn't answer immediately, because I was standing upstairs in my nightgown, trying to understand what I was seeing, she knocked again, harder. "Virginia!" Diane's voice carried up through the morning air, shrill and impatient. "Virginia, we know you're in there. Open the door. We need to talk." I put on my bathrobe. The blue one with the pockets. I don't know why that detail matters, but it does. I was very calm. I walked down the stairs, each step creaking exactly the way it had creaked for 27 years. The pine floors Frank and I installed ourselves, working nights and weekends because we couldn't afford to hire anyone. I could see them through the front door's window. Diane was looking at her watch. Harold was examining my doorknob like a surgeon studying where to make an incision. Willa was still staring at her phone. I opened the door. "Good morning," I said. Diane didn't return the greeting. She looked past me, into my living room, like she was cataloging everything she saw. "Virginia, we need to come in." This has gone on long enough. What has gone on long enough? This. Diane gestured around her, a sweeping motion that seemed to encompass my entire house. This situation. You squatting in our daughter's property. The word hit me like a slap. Squatting. I'm sorry, I said, even though I wasn't sorry at all. I don't understand what you mean. Harold stepped forward. He's a big man, 6'2", with the kind of weathered face that comes from years working construction before he moved into real estate investment. Ma'am, let's not make this difficult. You've been living here rent-free for years because my daughter has a generous heart. But Rebecca needs this property now. She's building something. A business. A future for your grandchild. He nodded toward Willa, who still hadn't looked up from her phone. I looked at my granddaughter. Willa, honey, can you look at me? She didn't move. Willa, I said again, louder. She glanced up for half a second, then back down. Her jaw was tight. She looked like she might cry or scream or run. I couldn't tell which. This is my house, I said, turning back to Diane and Harold. I don't know what Becca told you, but this is my house. My late husband and I built it in 1996. We poured the foundation ourselves. Frank did the framing. I did the electrical work after I took a night course at the community college. Diane laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. Virginia, I understand you're confused. Tom explained that you've been having some memory problems. It's okay. We're not angry, but you need to understand that this property belongs to Rebecca. It's been in her name for years. Show me, I said. Show you what? Show me the deed. Show me any document that says this house belongs to anyone but me. Harold pulled a folder from under his arm. He opened it and handed me a single sheet of paper. It was a utility bill, electric, dated September 2023. The name on the bill read, Rebecca S. Foster, 1428 Maple Ridge Street, Asheville, NC. I looked at the bill. I looked at Harold. This is a fake. Excuse me? Diane's voice went cold. I pay my own electric bill. I've paid it every month since 1996. Duke Energy, account number 42188563391. I have 27 years of statements in my filing cabinet upstairs. I pointed at the bill. This is photoshopped. Look at the font. It doesn't match Duke Energy's format. Harold's face didn't change, but I saw his hand tighten on the folder. Ma'am, you're exhausted. You're not thinking clearly. Why don't you go pack a bag and we'll help you find a nice place to stay. Temporarily. Just until we can sort this out. I'm not going anywhere. Virginia. Diane stepped closer. She smelled like expensive perfume and coffee. Let me be very clear. This is our daughter's property. You've been allowed to stay here out of family courtesy, but that courtesy has limits. If you don't leave voluntarily, we will have you removed. By who? By the police, if necessary, or by a locksmith. Harold lifted the toolbox slightly, making sure I saw it. We'd prefer to do this peacefully. That's when I understood. They weren't here to talk. They were here to force me out. They'd brought tools. They'd brought my granddaughter as a witness, probably to testify later that I'd been confused or uncooperative. They'd planned this. I looked at Willa again. Sweetheart, do you really think I'm confused? She opened her mouth, closed it. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, Grandma, just let them help you. Help me. That's what my son had said yesterday. That's what his wife had probably been saying for months, maybe years. Poor Ginny. She's declining. She needs help. She doesn't understand. I stepped back into my house. Wait here. Virginia, don't make this, Diane started. But I closed the door in her face. I walked through my living room, past the stone fireplace Frank built by hand, laying each river rock himself, spending 3 weekends getting the mortar mixture exactly right, past the oak mantel where our wedding photo still sat, both of us 26 years old, skinny and broke and happy, past Tom's baby pictures, past the framed nursing school diploma I earned in 1975, working full-time and going to school at night. I went to my bedroom. Under my bed, in a fireproof lockbox I bought at Office Depot in 2003, I keep my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, Frank's death certificate, our marriage license, and the construction permits from 1996. I pulled them out. 27 years old, but perfectly preserved. The paper had yellowed slightly, but the ink was still clear. Permit number 964457, issued by Buncombe County, North Carolina. Property address, 1428 Maple Ridge Street. Property owner, Virginia L. Foster and Franklin J. Foster. There were 3 permits total. 1 for the foundation, 1 for the electrical work, 1 for the final inspection. Each one had our names. Each one had our signatures. I carried them downstairs. When I opened the door, Harold already had the crowbar in his hand. He was examining the door frame, probably figuring out where to wedge it for maximum leverage. Diane was on her phone texting someone. Willa was sitting on the porch steps, her head in her hands. I held up the permits. "These are the original construction permits from 1996, I said. "Issued by Buncombe County. You can call the county office and verify them if you want. The permit numbers are all on file. This house was built by me and my husband. We own it. We've always owned it." Diane looked up from her phone. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Calculation, maybe. Or concern. Harold lowered the crowbar. He took the permits from my hand and studied them, his lips moving slightly as he read. His face was hard to read, but I saw his jaw tighten. "That's impossible," Diane said. She stepped forward and snatched the permits from Harold. She stared at them like they were written in a foreign language. "Rebecca said you were renting. She said her father left you this place when he died, and you've been living here on family charity. My husband didn't leave me this house. We built it together. And when he died in 2008, the deed transferred to me alone. I can show you that too if you'd like. It's in the same lockbox." Harold set down the crowbar, slowly, like a man who'd just realized he'd walked into the wrong house. "Ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No," I said. "There hasn't been a misunderstanding. There's been a lie. And you need to leave my property." Diane's face had gone pale. Not embarrassed pale, angry pale. "This isn't over, Virginia. If you're telling the truth, then Rebecca will explain everything. But if you're lying, if you've forged these documents or manipulated the records somehow, we will find out." "I'm sure you will," I said. "Now leave." Harold picked up his toolbox. Diane was still staring at the permits in her hands. I took them back, gently but firmly, and she let me. They walked to their truck. Willa stood up from the porch steps, and for a moment I thought she might say something to me. She looked at me directly for the first time all morning. Her eyes were red. "Willa," I said. She shook her head and got into the back seat of the truck. I watched them drive away. The sun was coming up now, orange light spilling over the mountains, making the frost on my lawn sparkle. It was going to be a beautiful day, cold, but clear. I went back inside and locked the door. My hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally hitting. I sat down at the kitchen table and I looked at the permits spread out in front of me. Frank's signature, neat and careful. My signature, messier, because I'd signed it while holding baby Tom on my hip, 27 years ago. We'd saved for 6 years to afford that build. We'd lived in a cramped apartment on the south side of Asheville, sharing one bathroom, sleeping on a mattress on the floor because we couldn't afford a bed frame. Every extra dollar went into a savings account at First Citizens Bank. $87,000 total. That's what it cost to buy the lot and build the duplex. Frank worked as a carpenter. I worked as a nurse at Mission Hospital, 3 12-hour shifts a week, and then I picked up extra shifts whenever I could. We ate rice and beans. We didn't go to movies. We didn't take vacations. We didn't buy new clothes unless something wore out completely. And when we finally had enough money, we built this place ourselves. Frank did the framing and the finished carpentry. I did the electrical and the painting. We hired a plumber for the bathrooms and a contractor to oversee the foundation pour, but everything else we did. I remember the day we moved in. Tom was 13 years old. He ran through every room, yelling about how big it was, how he finally had his own bedroom. Frank and I stood in the living room, holding hands, and we didn't say anything because we were both too tired and too happy to speak. That was this house. This house that Becca told her parents I was squatting in. I stood up and walked to the living room. I picked up my phone and called Tom. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. His voice, cheerful and professional. "You've reached Tom Foster. I can't take your call right now, but leave a message and I'll get back to you." "Tom," I said after the beep, "your in-laws just came to my house with a crowbar and tried to evict me. They said this house belongs to Becca. They said I'm squatting. I need you to call me back and explain what's going on." I hung up. I waited. He didn't call back. Tom showed up at 2:15 p.m. I know because I'd been watching the clock since I called him at 6:43 a.m., 7.5 hours. That's how long it took my son to respond to the fact that his in-laws had tried to break into my house. He didn't knock. He has a key. Had a key. He opened the front door and walked in like nothing had happened. Like this was still the house where he'd grown up, where he was always welcome. "Mom," he said, "we need to talk." He looked tired, circles under his eyes, his hair uncombed. He was wearing jeans and a wrinkled button-down shirt. Tom never wore wrinkled shirts. He ironed everything, even his t-shirts. Becca used to make fun of him for it. "Your in-laws tried to evict me this morning," I said. I was still sitting at the kitchen table. I hadn't moved much. With a crowbar. "I know." Diane called me. "Mom, why didn't you tell me you were having problems with the house?" "What problems?" "The ownership situation. The deed issues. Becca said you've been confused about—" "Stop." I stood up. "Tom, I built this house. Your father and I built it in 1996. You lived here. You know this." He ran his hand through his hair, that nervous gesture he'd had since he was 12. "Mom, I know you think that, but Becca showed me the paperwork. The house transferred to her when Dad died. It was part of his estate planning. You've been living here as a courtesy, because we wanted you close to us." I stared at my son. "Do you hear yourself?" "Mom, your father died in 2008, 17 years ago. Are you telling me I've been living in someone else's house for 17 years and nobody mentioned it? You were grieving. We didn't want to upset you. Show me the paperwork." He pulled out his phone, scrolled, then showed me a photo. A deed transfer document. Dated November 2008, 1 month after Frank died. It showed the property transferring from Franklin J. Foster and Virginia L. Foster to Rebecca S. Foster. My signature was at the bottom, except it wasn't my signature. "Tom," I said quietly, "that's forged." "Mom, you signed it. You just don't remember. You were on grief medication. The lawyer said—" "What lawyer?" "Harold knows a guy, estate planning specialist. He handled everything for free as a favor to the family." "Harold." "Of course. Tom, I never signed that document. I never met with any lawyer. And even if I had been on medication, which I wasn't because I don't take pills, I would remember signing away my house." "Mom." His voice was getting that tone. Patient, gentle, the tone you use with children or confused elderly people. "I know this is hard, but you need to accept that your memory isn't what it used to be. Becca and I have been worried about you for a while now. That's why we think it might be time to look at some assisted living options, places where you'd have support, people checking on you." "Get out," he blinked. "What?" "Get out of my house." "Mom, you're upset. Let me make you some tea and we can—" "Tom," I walked to the door and opened it. "I want you to leave. Now." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "You're really going to do this? You're going to choose pride over family?" "I'm choosing truth over lies. Leave." He stood there for a long moment. Then he walked past me, stopped in the doorway. "Becca's filing for guardianship. We have doctors who'll testify you're not competent to manage your own affairs. We're trying to help you, Mom. Why can't you see that?" He left. I closed the door. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Foster?" A woman's voice, professional. "This is Jennifer Hale from Serenity Flow Yoga Studio. We have you listed as a co-signer on a commercial lease, and we're calling because the account is 60 days past due. The amount owed is $12,400. I didn't co-sign anything." "Ma'am, according to our records—" I hung up. 2 minutes later, another call. Bank of America. A home equity line of credit in my name, opened 6 months ago. $125,000. 90 days delinquent. I'd never opened a line of credit. I went to my filing cabinet, pulled every bank statement from the last year. There it was, May 2023. A HELOC application, approved. My signature at the bottom. Forged, just like the deed. My hands were shaking when I called the bank. The representative was sympathetic but firm. The signature had been notarized. Everything was legal. If I wanted to dispute it, I'd need a lawyer. I didn't have a lawyer. I had $11,340 in my checking account and a Social Security check that came once a month. $1,500. That's what I lived on. Tom had a lawyer. Harold had connections. Becca had a yoga studio financed with my stolen equity. I sat on my floor, in the house I'd built, and I realized I was about to lose everything. They changed my locks on Sunday. I know because I went to church. First Presbyterian, the 9 a.m. service I've attended for 32 years, and when I came home at 10:45, my key didn't work. I stood on my own porch, twisting the key over and over, thinking maybe I was doing it wrong. Maybe the lock was stiff. Maybe I was tired. But no. The pins didn't catch. Someone had changed the cylinder. I called Tom. Voicemail. I called Becca. She answered on the first ring. Ginny. Not Mom, not Virginia. Ginny, like we were casual acquaintances. I was going to call you today. We've secured the property to prevent any further confusion. Your belongings are safe. We'll arrange a time for you to collect them. You changed the locks on my house. On our house, Ginny. The court will sort out the ownership dispute, but in the meantime, we can't have you living there unsupervised. It's not safe. You left the stove on twice last week. I don't have a gas stove. It's electric. And I didn't. We have documentation. Tom witnessed it. We're filing the guardianship petition tomorrow. The hearing is scheduled for December 18th. 3 weeks. You'll receive formal notice. She hung up. I sat in my car in my own driveway and I looked at my house. The house Frank and I poured the foundation for on a Saturday in July 1996, when it was 98 degrees and we ran out of water and had to drink from the neighbor's hose. The house where Tom took his first steps, where he learned to ride a bike in the driveway, where Frank died in the upstairs bedroom with hospice nurses holding his hands because the cancer had eaten through his lungs. I couldn't get inside. I drove to the Motel 6 on Airport Road, $89 a night. The clerk looked at me like I was a runaway spouse or a woman having an affair. Old lady, alone, no luggage, paying cash. Room 127. It smelled like chemical cleaner and old cigarette smoke that no amount of scrubbing could erase. The bedspread had a floral pattern that might have been cheerful in 1987. The coffee maker was missing its carafe. I sat on the edge of the bed and I thought about calling the police. But what would I say? My daughter-in-law changed my locks, and I have a forged deed, and my son thinks I have dementia. It sounded crazy even to me. My phone buzzed. Facebook notification. I almost never check Facebook, but something made me open it. Becca had posted a photo. Her and Tom holding hands, standing in front of Serenity Flow. The caption, "Caring for an aging parent with dementia is one of the hardest journeys. Grateful for community support as we navigate this. Please keep our family in your thoughts." Alzheimer's awareness. Family first. 147 likes. 63 comments. You're so strong, Becca. Sending prayers. My mother had Alzheimer's. It's heartbreaking. You're doing the right thing. I read every comment. People I'd known for years, people from church, people who'd eaten at my table. All of them believing I was demented, all of them praising my daughter-in-law for her compassion. I turned off my phone. That night, I couldn't sleep. The highway noise was constant, trucks grinding past every 15 minutes. The ice machine down the hall clunked and groaned. The couple in 128 fought until 2 a.m., their voices bleeding through the thin walls. I thought about Frank. How he'd held my hand in the hospital 3 days before he died, his voice hoarse from the morphine. "You're the strongest woman I know. Build a life without me. Don't let anyone make you small." I'd kissed his forehead and promised I would, but I'd failed. I'd let Tom and Becca make me small. I'd let them take my house, my money, my dignity. I'd let them tell the world I was incompetent. At 3:17 a.m., I realized I had nothing left to lose. At 6 a.m., I drove back to my house. The lights were off. Nobody home. I walked around back to the basement window Frank always meant to fix properly. The latch was broken. Had been since 2015. I'd reminded him a dozen times and he'd always said, "Next weekend, Ginny." I pushed the window open and climbed through. Inside my own house like a burglar, the basement smelled like laundry detergent and old cardboard. I found the string for the light and pulled. Boxes everywhere. Christmas decorations, Tom's childhood artwork, Frank's tools. And in the corner, the cedar chest Frank built for me in 1977, the year after we got married. I opened it. Inside were the letters, 14 of them. Frank wrote them during his last week in hospice, when he knew he was dying and wanted to leave me something more than memories. I pulled out the one dated October 19th, 2008, 5 days before he died. "Ginny, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't stay. I'm sorry I'm leaving you alone. But you've never been alone, not really. You've always had yourself, and yourself is enough. You're the woman who worked 2 jobs to put me through trade school. Who learned electrical work from a textbook because we couldn't afford a contractor. Who held our son with one arm and hung drywall with the other. You don't need me to be strong. You were always the strong one. If Tom ever makes you feel small, remember, you are the warrior who raised him. You built this house. You built this life. Don't let anyone take it from you. I love you." Frank, I sat on the basement floor and I cried for the first time since this started. Then I folded the letter, put it in my pocket, and climbed back out the window. I had 3 weeks until the hearing. I was going to fight. The church ladies saved me. Monday morning, I was eating stale toast in the Motel 6 when my phone rang. Eleanor Cassidy, 73, member of the church garden committee. We'd planted tulip bulbs together every October for 8 years. "Virginia Foster, why didn't you call me?" "Eleanor, I saw that horrible Facebook post. I know you don't have dementia. I saw you last Wednesday and you quoted Wordsworth while we were pruning roses. Demented people don't quote Wordsworth. Get dressed. I'm picking you up in 20 minutes. She hung up before I could argue. Eleanor drove a 1998 Buick LeSabre that smelled like peppermint and dog hair. She took me to Doris Chen's house, where 6 women from church were waiting around a dining room table covered in casserole dishes and legal pads. "Sit," Doris said. She was a retired paralegal, 68, sharp as a razor. "Tell us everything." I told them. The eviction attempt, the forged documents, the locks, the HELOC, Becca's Facebook post. By the time I finished, Eleanor was crying, and Doris was making notes in handwriting so precise it looked typed. "That's elder financial abuse," Doris said. "Textbook case. My nephew's a lawyer. Civil rights work, does pro bono for seniors. I'm calling him right now." His name was Marcus Webb. 41, Virginia Tech Law, looked like he should be in a courtroom on TV. He met me at Doris's house that afternoon with a briefcase and a recorder. "Mrs. Foster, I'm going to file emergency motions today. Injunction against further property access by the Suttons, fraud investigation with the DA's office, and elder abuse claims with Adult Protective Services. Do I have your permission? I can't pay you. The church garden committee collected $1,800 this morning. Doris kicked in another $3,000. That's enough to start. We'll figure out the rest." I cried again. Eleanor held my hand. By Wednesday, the injunctions were filed. By Thursday, a detective from the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office called me. Financial Crimes Unit. They were investigating the forged deed and the HELOC. "Mrs. Foster, did you authorize anyone to sign documents on your behalf between 2008 and 2023? "No." "Did you ever meet with an estate planning attorney named Gerald Kemper?" "No. Who is he?" "The notary on your deed transfer. Turns out he's Harold Sutton's brother-in-law. Lost his license in 2019 for notary fraud. We're bringing him in for questioning." Friday morning, the bank froze the HELOC. Becca's yoga studio had spent $119,000 of it. The remaining $6,000 was locked pending investigation. Friday afternoon, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Grandma, it's Willa. Can I see you? Alone. Please. We met at a coffee shop downtown. She looked smaller than she had on my porch 10 days ago. She was wearing her field hockey jacket and her eyes were red. I'm so sorry, she said before I could speak. Grandma, I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. Didn't know what, sweetheart? That it was your house. Mom said you were renting from her. She said you were getting confused and forgetting to pay rent and they were trying to help you. She said Grandpa Frank left the house to her when he died because he was worried you couldn't manage things alone. Willa, that's not true. I know now. She pulled out her phone, hands shaking. I recorded them. Mom and Grandpa Harold and Grandma Diane. 3 days ago. They were in our kitchen planning what to do after you wouldn't leave. I was upstairs and I heard them and She trailed off. You recorded them. 11 minutes. Everything. Grandma, they knew. They knew it was your house the whole time. Mom said the forged deed was just temporary until they could properly transfer assets. Grandpa Harold said they'd have you declared incompetent and the problem would solve itself. Mom laughed. She laughed, Grandma. She started crying. I reached across the table and held her hand. Can I have the recording? I already sent it to myself, and to you, and to like 5 other email addresses in case they try to delete it. She looked at me with Frank's eyes, Tom's eyes. I'm so sorry I believed them. I'm so sorry I came to your house that morning. I thought we were helping you. You were 16 and you trusted your mother. That's not your fault. Will you forgive me? Oh, honey, there's nothing to forgive. She hugged me in that coffee shop and she didn't let go for a long time. Saturday, Marcus filed the recording with the court and the DA. Sunday, the local news ran a story. Elder eviction horror. Asheville woman fights family fraud. Monday morning, Harold Sutton's real estate license was suspended pending investigation. His company's website went dark. 23 former clients started calling lawyers. Tuesday, Becca's yoga studio got a foreclosure notice. The landlord had seen the news. Turns out Becca had lied about her financials to get the lease. The $8,000 Himalayan salt wall, the one she'd bragged about on Instagram, sold at auction for $600. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. But I also felt something else. For the first time in weeks, I felt like myself. The guardianship hearing was December 18th at 9 a.m. Courtroom 3B, Buncombe County Courthouse. I wore the navy dress I'd bought for Frank's funeral 17 years ago. It still fit. Marcus met me in the hallway at 8:45. The DA's office sent an observer. That's good. Means they're taking the criminal case seriously. And Mrs. Foster, your son is here. Tom was sitting on a bench near the courtroom doors. He looked worse than he had at my house 2 weeks ago. Unshaven, wrinkled suit, hands clasped between his knees like he was praying. He looked up when I approached. Stood. Mom. Tom. I need to tell you something before we go in there. Okay. I didn't know. His voice cracked. I swear to God I didn't know about the forgery. Becca told me you'd signed papers when Dad died and you just didn't remember. She showed me documents. She had explanations for everything. I believed her because she's my wife, and I thought... He stopped, swallowed. I thought she loved me. I thought we were helping you. When did you find out? Saturday, after the news story. I confronted her and she admitted it. All of it. The forged deed, the HELOC, telling her parents the house was hers. She said it was just asset protection. She said we deserved it after everything you put us through. What did I put you through? I don't know, Mom. I asked her that and she couldn't answer. She just kept saying you were difficult, you were stubborn, you didn't appreciate us. He looked at his hands. I'm filing for divorce. She moved out yesterday. Took Willa. Willa came to see me last week. His head snapped up. What? She told me everything. She recorded Becca and her parents planning this. Tom's face crumpled. Jesus Christ. My daughter had to be the one to... He couldn't finish. Tom, why are you here? To testify. For you. Against Becca. Whatever you need. Marcus appeared beside us. They're ready. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Patricia Morales presiding, 60-ish, reading glasses on a chain. Becca sat at the petitioner's table with a lawyer I didn't recognize. Expensive suit, slicked hair. Diane and Harold sat behind her. Diane wouldn't look at me. Harold stared straight ahead like he was carved from stone. The proceedings started. Becca's lawyer went first, painting a picture of a confused elderly woman who couldn't manage her finances, who'd forgotten signing documents, who'd become paranoid and hostile. Ms. Foster has documentation showing Mrs. Virginia Foster signed a deed transfer in 2008. Mrs. Foster claims not to remember this, which is consistent with progressive cognitive decline. For her own safety and financial security, we're requesting temporary guardianship while— Your Honor, Marcus interrupted. May I approach? Judge Morales waved him forward. He handed her a folder. She read for 2 minutes while the courtroom sat in silence. Her expression changed from neutral to sharp. Counselor, she said to Becca's lawyer, are you aware that the deed in question has been referred to the district attorney for forgery investigation? Becca's lawyer blinked. Your Honor, no, that's— Are you aware that the notary who authenticated the signature lost his license in 2019 for similar fraud? And that he's the brother-in-law of the petitioner's father? I was not informed of— Are you aware that Mrs. Foster has undergone cognitive testing by a licensed psychologist and scored in the 93rd percentile for her age group? Becca's lawyer looked at Becca. Becca was staring at the table, her face white. Your Honor, Marcus said, we also have an audio recording of the petitioner, Ms. Rebecca Foster, discussing the fraudulent nature of the deed transfer with her parents. The recording was made by Ms. Foster's daughter, Willa Foster, age 16. We'd like to play it for the court. Objection! Becca's lawyer shot up. Chain of custody. Relevance. Overruled. Play it. The recording played on the courtroom speakers. Willa's voice, tinny but clear. Mom, are you sure about this? Then Becca. Honey, don't worry. The deed looks real. No one's going to check a 20-year-old document. Once we get guardianship, we can properly transfer everything. Harold's voice. The old woman's stubborn, but she's alone. We just need to wait her out. Diane. The dementia angle is perfect. People believe it, especially from someone her age. Becca, laughing. She actually thought she still owned the house. Can you imagine? The recording ended. The silence was crushing. Judge Morales removed her glasses. Ms. Foster, do you have anything to say? Becca stood slowly. Your Honor, that recording is out of context. We were discussing— I'm dismissing this petition with prejudice. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for immediate criminal investigation. Fraud, forgery, elder abuse, and attempted theft. Bailiff, please provide Ms. Foster and her parents with information on how to surrender themselves for questioning. Becca sat down hard. Diane made a noise like a wounded animal. Harold still didn't move. Mrs. Virginia Foster, the judge said, looking at me. I apologize on behalf of this court that you had to endure this process. Your home and your assets are yours. Anyone attempting to access them without your permission will be arrested for trespassing. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Outside the courthouse, Tom tried to approach Becca. She shoved past him without a word, her parents following. A news crew was waiting on the steps. Cameras flashed. Tom stood there watching her go, and I saw him realize what I'd already known. She'd never loved him. She'd loved what she thought he could give her. He turned to me. Mom, I know I can't fix this. I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make this right, if you'll let me. I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised, who'd failed me so completely. The man who'd finally found the courage to stand up, even though it was almost too late. Tom, I said, I don't know if I can forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. His face crumpled. I understand. But I'll give you a chance to try. He nodded, tears streaming. That's more than I deserve. I walked away. Marcus drove me to the Motel 6 to collect my things. Then to my house, where a locksmith was waiting to change the locks back. When I opened the door, everything was exactly as I'd left it. The stone fireplace, the oak mantel, Frank's toolbox in the corner. Home. But it didn't feel like home anymore. Too much had broken. Becca and her parents were arrested on January 9th. I wasn't there, but Eleanor called me from the courthouse where she'd gone specifically to watch. Diane cried the whole time, Eleanor reported, voice gleeful. Harold tried to argue with the judge, and Becca, stone-faced. Not one tear. That girl's got ice water in her veins. The charges were extensive: forgery, elder financial abuse, theft by deception, conspiracy to commit fraud. The DA offered plea deals. Harold and Diane took them, 18 months each, eligible for parole after 12. Harold would lose his real estate license permanently. Diane would have a felony record. Becca refused the deal. She wanted a trial. She wanted to clear her name. She got 3 years. The judge cited her complete lack of remorse and calculated exploitation of family trust. She'd serve at least 22 months before parole consideration. The yoga studio was liquidated. The landlord sued for unpaid rent. The salt wall that cost $8,000 sold for $600 at auction. I heard a brewery bought it and broke it into pieces for their tasting room decor. There's poetry in that. Tom lost his teaching job. Not officially for the scandal. They called it budget cuts. But everyone knew. Parents had complained. How could they trust a man who'd tried to steal his own mother's house? The school board wanted him gone. He got work doing construction. Day labor mostly. 43 years old, college degree, master's in education, swinging a hammer for $18 an hour. He called me every Sunday. I rarely answered. When I did, the conversations were short. Mom, I got my first paycheck. I'm sending you $300. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I'll send $300 every month until I've paid back everything Becca stole. It'll take years, but I'm going to do it. $300 arrived in my mailbox the first of every month. A check, handwritten. Sometimes there was a note. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm trying. I cashed the checks. I didn't respond to the notes. In February, I sold the duplex. I couldn't live there anymore. Every room held ghosts. Frank's ghost, yes, but also the ghost of the son I'd thought I had. The son who would have protected me instead of betraying me. The house sold for $412,000. After legal fees and paying off the fraudulent HELOC, I cleared $268,000. I bought a small condo in West Asheville. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 900 square feet. It cost $180,000. The rest went into investments Marcus helped me set up. The condo smelled like new carpet and fresh paint. It had no history, no memories. I could be anyone here. I started a blog in March. Silver Betrayal, one woman's fight against elder abuse. I wrote about what happened to me. I wrote about the warning signs I'd missed. I wrote about how family can be the most dangerous predator because you never see them coming. Within 6 weeks, I had 10,000 followers. By April, 20,000. People sent me their stories. Women mostly, but some men too. Children who'd stolen their parents' homes. Grandchildren who'd forged power of attorney documents. Spouses who'd waited for their partners to get dementia before draining accounts. The messages came in hundreds. Thank you for speaking up. I thought I was alone. You saved me. A documentary filmmaker from Charlotte contacted me in May. He wanted to make a film about elder financial abuse. He wanted me to be the central story. I said yes. Willa moved in with me in June. Becca was in prison. Tom's apartment was a studio barely big enough for him. Willa needed stability. Are you sure, Grandma? She asked when I offered. After everything, you told the truth when it mattered. That's more than I can say for your parents, she cried. Then she moved her field hockey equipment into my spare bedroom and we figured out how to live together. She was 16, angry, grieving, ashamed of her mother, furious at her father. We went to therapy together. We learned how to talk about what happened without screaming or shutting down. Do you hate Dad? She asked me one night in August. We were making dinner. Spaghetti, garlic bread. Normal things. No, I said. I don't hate him. Do you love him? I thought about that. I love who he used to be. I don't know who he is now. He's trying, Grandma. He really is. I know. Will you ever forgive him? I don't know, sweetheart. Ask me in 5 years. She nodded. She understood that some things can't be rushed. Tom kept sending checks. $300 every month like clockwork. He started showing up at Willa's field hockey games, standing far from the bleachers, not trying to approach, just there, watching. In September, Willa made varsity. First game of the season, I went. Tom was there. Same spot as always, on the edge of the field. After the game, Willa ran to me first. Then she looked at Tom. Dad, can you come over for dinner? I hadn't invited him. Willa was asking without asking me first. Tom looked at me. Hopeful, terrified. Just dinner, I said. And you leave when I say, yes, thank you. I'll bring something. What can I bring? Just yourself. He came at 6. He'd showered, shaved, wore clean clothes. He brought flowers, grocery store carnations, $6. He held them out like a child presenting a crayon drawing. Thank you, I said, and I put them in water. Dinner was awkward. Willa did most of the talking. Tom sat stiff, barely eating. I watched him, really looked at him for the first time in months. He'd lost weight. His hands were calloused from construction work. There were paint flecks under his fingernails. He looked tired, older, smaller. Dad got promoted, Willa said. He's a crew lead now. That's good, I said. $22 an hour. Tom added quickly. I'm going to increase the monthly payments to $500. If that's okay? You don't have to. I want to. He looked at me directly. Mom, I know I can't fix what I did. I know you might never trust me again. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm not the person I was. Even if you never forgive me, I need to prove it to myself. Willa excused herself. Went to her room. Left us alone. Tom, I said. Yeah? Do you understand what you did to me? Yes. Do you understand that you chose your wife's lies over your mother's truth? Yes. Do you understand that I almost lost everything because you were too weak to stand up for me? His voice broke. Yes. I stood, walked to the door, opened it. His face fell. I understand. I'm sorry. I'll come back next Sunday. Same time. Willa wants you here. He stared at me. Okay. Thank you. I'll be here. He left. I closed the door and I stood there for a long time, trying to figure out what I felt. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But something small. Something that might become forgiveness if he kept showing up, kept trying, kept being the man he should have been all along. Willa came out of her room. Are you okay, Grandma? I don't know yet. Do you think you'll ever trust him again? I thought about Frank's letters, about the duplex we built together, about Tom as a baby, as a boy, as a young man who used to call me every day just to say hello. I don't know, I said, but I'm willing to wait and see. She hugged me. That's all he's asking for. Tom came back the next Sunday, and the Sunday after that, and the Sunday after that. Sometimes we talked. Mostly we didn't. But he showed up. Every week. $300 turned into $500. $500 turned into $700 when he got another promotion. In November, he asked if he could help me paint the condo's spare bathroom. I said yes. We painted together in silence, rolling beige over white, and it felt like something I couldn't name yet. Progress, maybe. Or the beginning of healing. Or just two people who'd hurt each other trying to figure out how to exist in the same room. My blog hit 50,000 followers in December. The documentary premiered at a film festival in January. I was invited to speak at a conference on elder rights in March. I was 70 years old. I was alone, except for Willa. I'd lost my son, maybe permanently. I'd lost my house. I'd lost my illusions about family, but I'd found something else. My voice, my strength, my right to take up space in the world. On a Tuesday in February, Tom showed up unannounced. He was holding a toolbox. Frank's toolbox. The one I'd left behind when I sold the duplex. The new owners were throwing it out, Tom said. I asked if I could have it. I thought you might want it. I took the toolbox, opened it. Frank's old hammer, the one with the taped handle. His measuring tape, the one that always stuck at 17 inches. His level, cracked but still true. Thank you, I said. Mom, Tom's voice was quiet. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think... He stopped. Started again. Do you think Dad would have forgiven me? I thought about Frank, about his letters, about his belief in second chances, in redemption, in people becoming better than they were. I think, I said carefully, that your father would have wanted you to forgive yourself and then to prove you deserved it. Tom nodded, wiped his eyes. I'm trying. I know. He left. I put Frank's toolbox on the shelf in my living room, next to his picture. That night, Willa asked if she could invite Tom to her graduation in May. It's your graduation, I said. It's your choice, but will you be okay with it? I thought about the question, really thought about it. Ask me in May, I said. She smiled. That's progress, Grandma. Maybe it was. I still don't know if I'll ever fully trust Tom again. I don't know if the damage can be repaired. I don't know if forgiveness is possible, or if it even matters. But I know this. I survived. I fought back. I won. And if that's all I get, it's enough.